Thank you, Professor Aurora. First of all, it is going to be difficult to defend what grade I should be given. But in any case, any grade for me is useful because it tells me something, and if it's a bad grade, I know I have to work harder. And if it's a good grade, still, it means I have to sustain it. So I learn from whichever grade I get. But first of all, I want to say our situation, Rwanda's case, is a very complex one, but is full of lessons, not only for Rwandans, maybe for the rest of the world, and specifically for Africa. It shows what we are capable of in two ways. One, where we put ourselves. The tragedy of '94, the destruction that came with it. So it shows how human beings are capable of the worst things that they can also do for themselves. But 22 years down the road, it also shows what human beings are capable coming from this background of a tragedy to a situation where not only comparison can be made between our situation with the normal situations, but also how, in fact, in some instances, Rwanda can provide examples to learn from across the world. If you look at the reforms we have carried out in many areas, Rwanda ranking in terms of doing business by global institutions among the top, competitiveness of our economy among the top, and consistently. And the growth of our economy that has been registered for the last 14 years between 7 and 8% every year. Women empowerment and participation in politics, in business, in decision making. 64% of our women representing the country in parliament, 40% in the cabinet, between 40 and 50 in the judiciary, in the local government, mayors, women, education. We talked about quality, which is very important, but I think there is quality to it as well. But if you look at the enrollment rates for primary schools, secondary, and now into higher education, the figures speak for themselves. So normally in education, there are two problems. One, you have, it's the quantity. It's how many people are you able to educate? But it's also the quality indeed, too. Well, we have places where both are a problem. And in fact, we started from a point where both were a problem. So we have tackled one impressively, and that is the enrollment rate. The other we are now working on and investing in is the quality of education. So the put together, still we are in a good place if you compare with many other countries who, in fact, should be ahead of us, given where we have been and the situation we have had to manage. In health, universal coverage we have of our people, among the best you have in the world. Again, working on quality. It's not just about numbers, it's also about quality that has to accompany that. And that, again, is also registering a significant increase year in, year out. So, and let me touch something. I don't have to wait until maybe it comes by the way of questions. Rwanda, landlocked. In fact, I heard the roads being talked about. I don't know where it comes from that the roads are bad. Maybe it's just because somebody hasn't been to Rwanda. Or is talking about a story of 30 years ago. In fact, Rwanda has the best roads in our region. This is a fact. It's not, roads are things you see, so I'm not just creating anything. So in terms of infrastructure, the only thing we don't have is a railway, but we are in the process of building a railway, and we are working with the region. We have a master plan for the whole region to build a railway connecting Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, Rwanda, and Burundi. That is already underway. But for roads, there is no comparison between our roads and the rest of the countries in the region. Not only that, in other kinds of infrastructure, we have laid fiber optic cable across the country that serves every corner of the country. In fact, being rolled out to connect schools, administrative centers, or border posts, the ones that, the crossing points through which imports and exports move or trade. We have laid close to 4,000 kilometers of fiber across the country. The city of Kigali are now rolling out to other parts of the country, to other towns. We have 4G LTE working. In the area of telecoms, what we have registered also in terms of development is very significant. So the infrastructure that is there to serve the citizens and serve the private sector, especially for its fast growth that we want and we are noticing, is unquestionable. There's no doubt about that. But being landlocked has helped us to think smarter and harder as to how we manage this. And two things come out. One is about regional integration that we have emphasized and is working, bringing together the 5 countries of 150 million people. It helps Rwanda to easily do business with these, and with these countries and within this market. The second, we have targeted, again relating to competitiveness, is what are the things we should be doing or producing that have high value and therefore more or less render irrelevant the problem of being landlocked. In fact, that's why we have emphasized investments in technology, in services, in knowledge, because most of what you get from this is not that sensitive to how far you are from the ports that through which you have to export some of the things. So there is that in mind as to what we have to do, and it's complex, there's no doubt, but I think looking at the continued growth, and growth, by the way, that translates into development of our citizens. It's not just growth, again, in terms of numbers, impressive numbers. It's growth that contributes to development of our people. We have, for example, between 2006 and 2005-06, 2014, registered that we have managed to lift people out of poverty to the tune of 1.6 million of our citizens. And these are numbers we have cross-checked with other institutions that we work with, whether it is the World Bank or other institutions. So the growth is not just growth of numbers, 8%, and that's it, irrespective of where it comes from. It is growth that actually comes from and feeds into the well-being of our people. So in a nutshell, we have done what is humanly possible in changing the situation. In fact, again, let me make a clarification. Even with aid we have got, which has been very helpful. But we are not the only ones who get aid. There are many countries in the world that get aid. But how many make significant progress because they have been receiving aid? Therefore, you cannot qualify aid as being the one responsible for development or progress of people. It's also the people who receive it, how they put it to good use. So it cannot just be aid. It has to be those who receive aid, how do they use it? And if they use it to build the kind of foundations on which they should be able to stand on their own for their future well-being and development. So MDGs that were talked about, I was actually co-chair of the MDGs Commission from the beginning to the end, with the different other leaders. At one point, the Prime Minister of Spain, another, the Prime Minister of Australia, the last was the Prime Minister of Norway. I was, throughout the years, the co-chair of MDGs Commission. So from outside, there are things you get. But if you rely on what you get from the outside and don't do nothing from the inside, you are doomed. You won't make any progress. So MDGs were helpful as simply a framework and to guide us to things we need to do. But until you do those things, then you don't make any progress. So enough of defending my grades. I think I would just simply welcome any questions, and I'm always happy to be here. I'm happy to be back. I always find different faces, but always a pleasure. Thank you very much.
I'm curious what's your vision for the future of Rwanda over the next 10, 20 years?
Well, the vision for the future is not divorced from the vision we have had. It's a continuation of the vision we have had. One, the vision we have had is really hinged on people, and their well-being, their development, and then the rest are those things that enable us to be where we want to be. But the aim is to be a stable, secure country and prosperous. And we know some of these things have been taken for granted by some other countries, but that's where I want to be. The aspirations are really the same for all people, whether it is Rwanda, Africa, or other parts of the world. So I think we've been doing a lot, as I said earlier, to build the foundation, a very firm foundation on which we can keep building for the well-being of Rwandans. And for Rwanda in particular, we are very conscious and probably better than anybody or more than anybody as to how our number one asset is our people. So how we invest in our people for their health, for their education, for skills, for they being the drivers of what they get and want for their future is the only way. So 20 years down the road, I think we should be, maybe we are about to obtain a middle income status, and that's what we are in the current vision running up to 2020 we are looking at. And more years ahead, why not move to another level like we have seen other countries progress?